With the new series here, what you're really looking for is all the way down at the bottom of this page. Each of these sections details a certain part of the Azon 30-day challenge, basically a rough time frame that you can go by to proceed through this series. And every other part is watching a lesson. If you click on the plus link out to the side, you'll expand it. And then you can simply open up the video lesson to watch. It also has a PDF of the class slideshow to go along with it. And then the follow-up lesson that comes right behind it is the actual work. This is an additional checklist guide here, where again, you click on the plus and you expand it. And this basically walks you through the essential instructions that I've gone through in the previous training lesson. But now it's time for you to work through it. And so the idea is to not only make sure that you don't miss any important steps, but as you work through the series, you can actually check off your task that you have completed, and it'll keep track of it for you. So then maybe you come back a couple days later, you can easily remember where you have left off because it'll remember your progress. So then on each of the work days, you have an individual checklist for that work day. But then on the main program here as well, you have this main checklist. So basically you watch the lesson for day number 1, you check it off, and then for the next week you work on the work in this checklist guide, checking off each of those items as you proceed. Once you get all those completed, you come back here and simply check that one off and continue on until the entire series is complete. And by the time you get to the end, you'll have a complete Amazon site built alongside of the one that I will be building in this series. Gina is asking, does Associate Goliath work with your Facebook Post Publish plugin? I do not recall personally testing those two together. I would have to actually go and try that out for myself and play around with a few different settings just to see. I would think that it should work. I mean, I can't think of a reason why it wouldn't. You know what? I'm pretty sure it won't happen automatically when Associate Goliath is publishing a post. But if you go back into the Associate Goliath posts that have been published, you should be able to edit those individually, and then you should see the option to publish to Facebook over near the update button. However, I'll test that out for myself and make sure that that does actually work together. Yeah, let's see, Amanda, I was reading through your question here. Amanda is asking, I'm building a site following the layout you present in Azon Masterclass 1. The title above the first category box sits on 2 lines, whereas the other 2 category titles sit on 1 line. This means that the first box is pushed down. I see, so the lineup of it essentially isn't correct. How do I put an extra empty row above the category 2 and 3 boxes so they are aligned across the page? There's really a couple of ways, I guess, that you could do this. A simple way is to simply add something like a line break. For example, let's say this is title 2 within WordPress, And obviously this is surrounded by some HTML coding. What you could basically do would be something like this. This is the AND symbol, and the letters N, B, S, P, and then a semicolon. This is for a space, is what this essentially represents. It makes sure that that line doesn't get cut out. And this is something you would want to be doing in the HTML view. And then this here is a line break. A less than symbol, the letters BR, space, /, and then a greater than symbol. So doing something like this should create a blank line for you and then bump the title down to a second line. Now other options would be getting a little more fancy. There's some kind of a div box that is contained around your title, and it'll likely have, I don't remember the exact coding that I did for that, but it probably has some kind of class here, like DCG box title. You can either go into the CSS coding and create a duplicate of that and change around like the padding that is in it, or you could also do something like adding in an extra style code where you simply add a padding to the top. Basically, however many pixels a normal line would take up, you can kind of add the same thing in with CSS using padding like this as well. But the first example is probably what most people would want to do. Should be the easiest approach with the least amount of technical knowledge needed to pull it off. Ron is asking, I wanted to know how to add a WordPress site to Fresh Store Builder. Basically, Fresh Store Builder is a standalone piece of software. To add WordPress to it, you're basically not integrating the two software titles. You are putting them next to each other on the same website, and they're both running. So then you would have Fresh Store Builder running in one part of your site, and you would have WordPress running in the other part. So your connecting of the two sites basically just involves menu links. So as an example, doing something like, I'll use Down Comforter Guide as an example here. Having a website like Down Comforter Guide, which is based on WordPress and installed in the base folder of this website, when I go to just the domain name, I'm accessing WordPress. Well, I have one particular section of my site, the brands area, which would be linked up from over here and also from the top menu here. If I wanted to use software like Fresh Store Builder to create kind of the initial structure of the product pages for me, and then maybe I'd go back in and add some of my own unique content to it. But then I wanted to have this interconnected in with the rest of my WordPress site, which would be all of my info content. All you really have to do is just try to get WordPress installed in the main domain, or it could even be Fresh Store Builder, and then the other one gets installed in a subdirectory. So you can have something like Fresh Store Builder being installed in the store directory. Then you simply manually link up all of the brand content and also the brand section up top here. And all of this content is then contained within your Fresh Store Builder site. So all you really have to worry about doing is getting those two things to look the same, and then interconnecting them in terms of your menu links. So like on the Fresh Store Builder site, you would want to have the same menu setup that you see on your WordPress site. So that way when people click over to the brand area, it doesn't look like they're taken to a completely different page. So hopefully that answered your question for you without going into too horribly much specific detail. That is an excellent question, Gina. I've actually been thinking about at least offering some kind of a really short, 5-10 minute training video on talking about that kind of thing. Gina is asking, does Amazon's new policy on websites for children under 13, would this include toy stores that include all ages, and what are my thoughts? What's going on is Amazon has enacted this new policy where if you log into your affiliate account, you'll see up at the top of the page there will be a little notice saying that you need to declare whether any of your sites are targeting children under the age of 13. And if so, you have to declare those websites. Well, they don't specifically tell you this ahead of time, but if you do declare one of your websites as targeting children under the age of 13, they actually will not allow you to even use Amazon ads on that site at all. So this does present a little bit of a gray area perhaps when it comes to certain things like toy stores. You have a website that is promoting toys. Obviously, the toys might be for kids under 13, but the question would be whether or not that would be considered to be a website for kids under 13. Because, is it a site for the kids or is it a site for the parents of the kids? I think that's really going to be where they would draw that line at. I personally I couldn't tell you for sure one way or another. Yes, that'll be fine, or no, that won't be fine. But my thoughts on that are simply try to make sure that you have some kind of language on your website that's very prevalent, that indicates that it kind of is intended for the parents, that, children under the age of 13 should, maybe get their parents' permission to be browsing on the site, and especially, if they want to try to actually purchase something. I have not seen any specific legal wording that the Amazon has released about that. I do need to take another dive into their affiliate agreement to see if they updated anything there, but I didn't receive any kind of a notice saying they were updating that. So I will have to double check on that. My thoughts, though, in terms of what I would recommend to do is if you have a toy store site, just revisit it. Ask yourself if you are kind of gearing your advertising and your content towards kids, or if it's kind of targeting the parents of the kids. You can even add some new content to your site that, makes it a lot clearer that you are indeed going after the parents, even if you're not saying it in those specific words. For example, you could have articles on your site about, what to buy your kids for their birthday, and then you can have toys that are for kids that are under 13, but obviously that kind of content would be geared towards targeting the parents and not the children. So I think that's where that line will kind of be drawn with that gray area there. But again, this is just kind of my personal assumption based off of the information that I've currently seen from them. Amanda, that's also a good question. She's asking about Weaver Extreme and whether my new course will be using the theme or doing any other training for it. I was initially intending on doing some separate training for Weaver Extreme. However, with this new series, I thought this would be a good opportunity to, instead of just do some basic instructional training on Weaver Extreme, to actually use it for the new site so you can see exactly what it is that I do with it. So yes, I will be using Weaver Extreme in the new training. So you'll actually get to see that happening. And that'll actually be coming this coming class, which will be released in the members area here on August the 26th. Ron is asking, is Amazon A Store good or bad for your affiliate site? I wouldn't necessarily classify it as a good or a bad thing. For some people, the A Store works just fine. I'm personally not a big fan of it, simply because I don't get a lot of control over it, and that content really isn't part of my website. It's, content that Amazon is essentially hosting. So with that said, I usually prefer to either create my own manual ads, or at least that's how I started out doing it, and now I just use my plugins to create my Amazon ads for me, simply so I can sell them in the way that I want to. I'm not a huge fan of just having a big store unless there's a lot of content to kind of go along with that store. And so I feel like that's kind of the line there for me with the Amazon A Store, why I personally don't like it. But if the rest of your website is filled with a lot of really great informational content, and you don't want to have to worry about the product promotion end, maybe there's simply too many highly relevant products for you to promote in your niche. There could be some specialized situations where I could maybe see the A Store working out a little better. But at least for me personally, I really don't ever use it. Mao is asking, will I ever be doing anything to do with e-commerce sites, selling our own stuff? I have done some random training courses as like a bonus or something, really nothing super in-depth. I'm not currently involved in e-commerce at the moment myself. However, I have done that numerous times over the years. So I do have a lot of personal knowledge about that. I have maybe thought about doing some kind of training having to do with that, but I've kind of been hesitant to do so because it has been, I would say, 2 to 3 years or so since I was really heavily involved in selling as a vendor on Amazon specifically. Ron, it wouldn't necessarily be bad SEO, Ron, to have the Amazon A Store. It's, if I recall correctly, I think it's JavaScript based. So basically, it's just going to be like having nothing. You won't have any negative effect from it, but you won't have any positive effect from it either. It'll almost just be like there is no content there, because Google will typically not be able to index the actual content that JavaScript is loading up. So my answer would be it's kind of neither good or bad SEO, which again is why I prefer to do my own ads and create my own pages for my products, because it does allow me that opportunity to use SEO to actually get traffic off of the product brands, the product names, the product model numbers, anything associated with that, which typically might be ignored if you were just using something like an A-store. Amanda is asking, is it possible to include tags in my Amazon affiliate links so that I can identify the campaign the click has come from, like email, Facebook? And if so, how do I do this? To a certain extent, they do have a way to do that, but it may not really be I don't know, like it is on a lot of other networks where you can just simply add a tag to a link. Basically, if you log into your Amazon affiliate account, up in the top left-hand corner, you'll see your affiliate ID. And you should see a little link in that box. I believe it says manage, if I'm not mistaken. And you can create new tracking IDs that way. And so instead of using your standard affiliate ID, you just replace your affiliate ID with one of the tracking IDs that you have created within Amazon. And then you can filter out your reports, your earnings reports, and where they give you traffic stats on your different links and stuff like that. You can filter all that out based on your tracking IDs. So it takes a little bit more effort, I guess, to set it up. If you wanted to do it for a lot of different campaigns, I'm kind of wanting to say they have a limit. I don't remember the exact number, though. So it might not be as much freedom as you could get. But if you're just looking to track a couple of different metrics or a couple of different websites or sources of the traffic, then you can definitely do that by just setting up those tracking IDs. Ron is asking, do any of my plugins create a store like Fresh Store Builder? Technically, no. I have considered making something like that over the years. They do seem to be very popular with both my customers and other Amazon affiliates. The main reason I avoided them to begin with was just that it was kind of the opposite of what I really taught people to do, in terms of I didn't want to create something that offered that automation to where it would just spit out an entire website for you. So I knew that if I wanted to build something like that, that I would have to create it in a very special manner to where you could essentially customize everything and add your own unique content. And I guess Fresh Store Builder coming along, while it's not exactly what I would build, it's the closest thing that I've seen out there to something that I would try to build. And so that is why I recommend that, because obviously you can do all the customization and stuff with that software. It's just maybe a little more complicated or feature heavy than I think would be ideal for your average new Amazon affiliate. So with that said, I might one of these days try to do something like that. Currently, though, I do not have anything like that and have not started on a project like that either. Ron is asking, Is cPanel better than iPage? Is that what the other one you're asking about? I personally use cPanel on all my websites. I don't know if necessarily I was just thinking whether you would have really better ones than others. I have seen some control panel administration areas for website hosting companies where they do limit your um, types of interactions and things that you can do on the server. So with that said, I definitely prefer cPanel because um, it does allow you to do all those extra things unless your web host is specifically disabled one of those features in cPanel. And also, any training of mine that talks about um, setting up the website, messing with perhaps a database or something like that, a lot of that stuff would probably be in my Techie Masterclass series. I think there's an entire lesson there about doing various things with cPanel. So that is what I use, and when I have training that has to do with managing a web hosting account, I do that kind of training on cPanel as well. So probably would be, if you had a choice, the one I would recommend going for. Simply because, at least through me, if you had questions about the other ones, it's been such a long time since I've used anything else but cPanel in that realm that I probably wouldn't be too much help. Mando's asking, I haven't built a site for a while. Do all of your plugins work with current version of WordPress? And say there's a second part. I'll get to that in just a second. To my current knowledge, I get a lot of feedback from this. I also obviously use the plugins myself. The only plugin currently experiencing an issue is on Publisher Studio. Amazon has made some changes with their Publisher Studio system recently, and it does seem to have broken the way the plugin operates, and possibly may have even broken the old way that Publisher Studio worked in general, which is something that's kind of out of my control. I'm still investigating that a little bit. They have made a replacement for that. They have a new browser extension. I'm simply trying to find out whether the plugin is something that I can fix or whether that new browser extension is essentially the only replacement, and maybe the old system has been phased out or something like that. So as far as my plugins working currently, simple answer, everything but Azon Publisher Studio at the current moment. Now for the other part, do I know of a plugin that will recognize sales from any of the Amazon country sites? Product style can do that. In the settings for that plugin, if you simply add in your affiliate or tracking ID into the settings for additional country sites, and then also make sure that they are set as active in that same area, then it will detect what country the visitor is coming from and try to serve up ads for the appropriate site. However, if you do want to use a system like that, I would recommend starting small, because unfortunately Amazon, I don't know why a huge company would do something like this, but they have these different locale sites, and a lot of the times they'll have the same exact product, on multiple sites of theirs, but it almost seems like the sites were built by different development teams or something like that, because a lot of the inner workings of them, things like the Amazon API for the different locales, actually varies from one to the next. Some of them give certain amounts of information and others don't. And they might replace it with something else or just leave it out entirely. And so one of the discrepancies there with all the different locales is sometimes you can find a product on a different Amazon locale using the exact same ASIN, and other times you can't. Sometimes that product might be listed under a different ASIN, or there may simply not be an exact replacement product for it. The electronics niche is one of these especially, where you will find that being the case. A television that is sold on Amazon.com is not going to be the same name and model number and everything that's being sold on Amazon.co.uk, simply because the electronics are different in those countries in terms of, the plug that's going into the wall, the actual electrical systems of it. So with that said, certain niches, it's almost a little more trouble than it's worth to try to do country localization. What I personally like to do when it comes to that is I'll set up Amazon.com ads on my website to begin with. And then I'll set up Google Analytics on the site as well. And I'll start watching where my traffic is coming from. Analytics is pretty good about tracking the demographics of it. So then if I see that maybe USA traffic isn't my number one traffic, or if I have a pretty decent chunk of traffic from a specific country, then I might try to revisit those products on my site, check the different locale that country would apply to, and investigate whether those products are available under the same ASIN or whether there would be a good replacement product for it. That way, if you have to go through and manually specify replacement products, you're not doing it across all the different Amazon locales, when chances are on the average website, a number of those locales might not even ever see a click, or they'd see a very, very rare click simply because you don't have a lot of traffic from the countries that would apply to that. So I like to do more of a reactive approach to link localization as opposed to a proactive approach there. Inside of product style though, if you activate another locale and below those settings, there's an admin override feature where you can essentially assign yourself as the administrator as being from a different locale. You can then go and browse your live website and try clicking on your Amazon product links to see if that product is available in that other locale under the same ASIN. So when you enable the locale, you should do that testing for the new country, go through all of your Amazon ads on your site to verify whether they are functioning or not, make a record of the ones that are not working correctly, and then you go into the ads page in product style in the administration area. You find the ads that are not working correctly, and you're essentially going to want to specify a replacement ad. However, if you don't have an ad already set up for that replacement ad, you'd have to go to the Auto Amazon section first, create the new replacement ad using the proper locale. Then when you're editing the ad under the ads page, all the way down at the bottom, there's a whole bunch of drop-down boxes, one for each of the locales. and you can specify specific products that would replace it under a certain locale situation. So it definitely gets a little complicated and a little time consuming to actually make those manual replacements like that, which again is why I recommend to really go after where your traffic is coming from instead of trying to cover every single locale, because it often can end up being a waste of time for a decent number of those locales where you just simply don't have traffic coming from those countries. Amanda's asking, is there anything we need to put on our site to do, or if we do, retargeting? Overall, not really. The one main thing that I can really think of that you'd want to worry about is on your About Us page, at least the way I recommend to set this up in the message that I provide to put on there, the Amazon affiliate agreement statement. You might want to just add on to the end of your statement, the additional sites that you might link up to. This particular site here is only using Amazon.com, for example. Beyond that, it's really kind of up to you. If typically if you're getting traffic to your site through, say, Google, and that traffic's coming from a different country, they're usually arriving on your site by searching for an English keyword phrase. So a lot of times you really don't have to worry about whether or not that person can, understand your site in terms of maybe translating it. I do have a plugin, WPG Translate, that will put a little drop-down box in the corner of your site and allow you to integrate the Google website translator so people can convert it to another language. So maybe if you had a special situation where not necessarily all of your traffic was coming in off of Google searches. If you were getting traffic elsewhere and you weren't as confident that the people visiting your site actually speak English, then something like the translate feature can be useful in those situations. But again, at least the way that I teach the website building and with the way the Google website translator works, for example, adding that on won't allow your site to get indexed in another language, for example, to give you access to another language worth of keywords. So that's why in a lot of cases, going after at least some of the locales ends up just being more time consuming than it's worth. But you do have some locales like Canada and Amazon UK that are sometimes worthwhile to use in a larger number of situations. I've done some projector sites in the past, for example, where I wasn't able to get the exact projector because of the electrical differences, but I actually did go through and find products to manually replace all the main products that I had on Amazon.com. And I did have a fairly low amount of traffic from those extra countries, but I was also able to get at least some random sales on there. It still wasn't anything incredible. The Amazon.com sales were easily 10 times as more. At least as far as your basic question, though, this would be my main thing that I'd worry about. Just simply adding any extra sites onto that list that you might be promoting. Amanda is asking about Facebook ads. She's only just started looking at this, but basically if you use a Facebook ad tracking pixel to build a custom audience, do you need some kind of disclaimer on the site? Look at the Azon Masterclass 2 series. There's a Facebook class there, and I don't recall off the top of my head whether it's in that class or in one of the 2 site construction classes of that series. But there is a like a privacy policy and a terms of service generator that I have there, or samples that you can use, and I'm pretty sure one of those has stuff about things like that in it, since that does apply to that particular series that I did. Thank you, Pete. I appreciate that. Hope you have a great night, and I hope to see you again. What are my thoughts on Facebook video ads? Mal is asking. I have not recently run much in the way of Facebook ads. It's probably been 5 or 6 months or so, but in general, when it comes to being an Amazon affiliate, I've really never done too much advertising on Facebook, period, unless I have a very clearly defined reason, I guess, to try to build up a social network audience for one of my sites, something that might be getting updated on a very frequent basis, to where there'd actually be something to kind of encourage regular discussion on. A lot of times, I just avoid the Facebook ads for my Amazon sites, at least. I do use Facebook ads when I'm selling my own products, or maybe more importantly for lead generation and stuff like that. It's a lot easier to give away something useful to somebody on Facebook in exchange for like their email address than it is to try to blindly sell them, some kind of training course or software or something like that. So, and then especially when it comes to trying to do things like that apply to Amazon products, it definitely gets a little more complicated and difficult to try to make a profit, simply because the low percentage commission that you end up getting off of Amazon, it just makes it hard to pay less than that amount for the Facebook ads. So I have not personally used a Facebook video ad yet. With that said, so I don't have specific comments on that one. I do think it's interesting that they have added those. I could see the usefulness of them for lead generation, would be my number one thought. Give people something useful, kind of like a short 3 to 5 minute teaser there with the Facebook video ad. I don't know, the video ads might even work better going even shorter than 3 to 5 minutes. I'd have to, again, do some testing with things like that to actually say for sure, but I'd be inclined to go with short videos and do lead generation with them.